The Travis Walton Incident, 1975. Those left behind, lies and murder accusations. The painful decision by the roadside. Inside the truck parked on the side of the forest road, time seemed to have stopped. 6 grown men were shivering from the impact of the horror they had just witnessed. They were reliving that moment over and over again, Travis walking toward that light, that explosion of blue-green energy, and his body being hurled through the air. Once the initial shock wore off, it was replaced by a deafening silence, followed by a violent argument. Ken Peterson, we left him there, Mike. For God's sake, we left him there. Alan Dallas, still in a panic, he was dead. You saw it, that thing fried him. If we go back, they'll kill us too. Crew boss Mike Rogers had to make the hardest decision of his life. Travis was his best friend and his sister's fiancé. The thought of leaving him there to die made him sick to his stomach. Mike took a deep breath and restarted the engine. We're going back, he said with a determined voice. We're going to go check on him. The truck turned back toward the direction they came from, deep into the dark forest. This journey was even more terrifying than the escape. The void, the horror of silence. As they approached the scene, Mike turned off the headlights. They covered the last 100 meters in darkness, guided only by moonlight and the sound of the engine idling. When they reached that clearing behind the hill, they had prepared themselves for the worst-case scenario. But what they encountered was eerier than they expected: nothingness. That massive, golden, humming disc was gone. And even worse, Travis Walton was gone too. The 6 men got out of the truck. They scanned the area with flashlights. They found the spot where Travis fell, but there was no blood trail on the ground, no burns, no signs of a struggle. It was as if Travis Walton had evaporated from this world along with that beam of light. Mike Rogers yelled into the darkness of the forest, "Travis! Travis!" His voice echoed among the trees, but there was no answer. At that moment, they realized that Travis hadn't just been hit, he had been taken. And this reality was even more terrifying than him being dead. The sheriff's office, an unbelievable story. Around 7:30 p.m., the door to the sheriff's office in the town of Snowflake burst open. The 6 men who entered were in a wretched state. Some were crying, all were trying to talk at once. Facing them was the town's experienced and level-headed deputy sheriff, Chuck Ellison. Mike Rogers, "Sheriff, Travis is gone." A flying saucer, a light, it hit him and took him away. Ellison initially thought this was a bad joke. These men had been working in the forest since morning, perhaps they had been drinking and gotten drunk. But the look of terror on their faces and the fact that some of them, big, tough loggers, were sobbing uncontrollably was real. This was no act. Once the seriousness of the situation was understood, Sheriff Marlon Gillespie was called to duty. Gillespie was a respected, grounded lawman in the town. The sheriff took the 6 men into separate rooms and listened to their statements. They all told the same incredible story down to the finest detail: a golden disc, a blue light, Travis flying through the air, and panic. For a police officer, there were 2 options: either these men were having a collective hallucination, or they were telling an incredibly complex lie. The search and initial suspicions. That night, Sheriff Gillespie and his team went to the scene, guided by Mike Rogers. They even took Geiger counters, radiation detectors, with them. The search lasted for hours. But the result was a big, fat 0. Lack of physical evidence. There were no landing tracks, no scorched earth, nor any abnormal radiation levels. If a massive spaceship had landed there, it had left no trace behind. Inconsistencies. In the eyes of the police, the story was too fantastic for the sheriff. Moreover, it was known that there had been past friction between some crew members, especially between Travis and Alan Dallas. By morning, whispers had already begun in the town. The "flying saucer" story sounded convincing to no one. A more earthly and dark scenario began to form in people's minds. What if they killed Travis? And this UFO story is just a lie they concocted to hide the body? The polygraph, the test of truth. The days following the incident were hell for the 6 men left behind. Travis's family was devastated, the townspeople looked at them as killers, and media from all over the country flocked to Snowflake. The state police, DPS, took over the investigation. It was no longer a missing person case, but a potential murder investigation. Under pressure, the crew saw only one way to prove their innocence: the polygraph, lie detector, test. The test was administered by Cy Gilson, one of the Arizona State Police's best experts. The questions were clear. 1. Did you cause serious harm to Travis Walton? 2. Do you know where Travis Walton is? 3. Are you lying when you say a flying saucer hit him? This test was the gamble of their lives. If they failed, they would not only be branded as liars but also as killers, and would likely go to prison. Branded as killers. When the test results were announced, the tension in the room was palpable. Expert Cy Gilson's report was shocking. 5 of the 6 men had passed the test, conclusively. They were telling the truth. They had genuinely experienced the event as they described it. Only Alan Dallas had an inconclusive result due to extreme nervousness, but he passed it later on. This result put the police in an even greater bind. The lie detector said these men believed they saw a UFO and that their friend was abducted. But Travis was still missing. 5 days had passed. For the police and the townspeople, regardless of the polygraph result, there was one single truth: 7 men went into the woods, 6 returned, but 1 did not. Until a body was found, these 6 men were prime suspects. What happened in the woods that night was a mystery, but for those left behind, life had turned into a nightmare. Until that phone call came. In the next chapter, we move on to the most terrifying part of the story. Where was Travis Walton during those 5 days? What happened after that blue light hit him? Travis's awakening inside the ship, the entities he encountered, and the details of the horrifying medical procedures he experienced. Watch the 3rd video to witness the nightmare of those left behind and continue to stay with us in this tension-filled story.